I watched 260 movies in the year 2024, and I'm going to babble about a lot of the ones that I thought were cool, starting with Godzilla Minus One. I saw this movie 19 times over the span of 2023 and 2024. 19 times in the theater. I watched it a couple more times at home. It has come out on Blu-ray, which I pre-ordered. I believe it's my favorite movie of all time. I won't talk too much about it, but it's how I kicked off 2024 on January 1st by seeing Godzilla Minus One for the who knows how many, who knows what time that was. I watched Mulan for the first time in January. That was an awesome movie. I had never seen it back in the 90s. And then I watched a few other Disney movies. I watched Alice in Wonderland on a plane, and I'm sure I've seen it before, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I watched Sleeping Beauty, which I did not like quite as much. I was able to see The Wizard of Oz in a movie theater. Regal was doing some anniversary showing of it, and that was really awesome. I'd never seen that movie in a theater. I've seen it plenty of times, but I really enjoyed that. His Girl Friday, a Cary Grant movie. I just watched that at home. Now, I watch a lot of 30s and 40s movies in the beginning of the year, but they all kind of blend together as I look back on them. I really have gone into kicks of watching classic Hollywood, but as you'll see, when we get past the summer and into the fall and winter of this year, I haven't been watching too much classic Hollywood, a lot more new stuff. I watched a movie called Cure, which is a Japanese film by the same director of Pulse, which I watched last year. I liked Pulse, but I loved Cure. Cure got really under my skin, as it does with a lot of people. Definitely something to check out. I watched Repossessed with my wife, which is a Leslie Nielsen comedy. It's a spoof of The Exorcist. I would call it so bad it's good. I really liked it. Next is a movie that I moved into my top 4 on Letterboxd. I moved House Out, House 1977. It was a movie that I love that movie, but I just, after watching it so many times, I just told myself this isn't really like one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a fun movie to watch. It's kooky and crazy, but it doesn't live in my heart the way some other films do. But I saw this movie called Rad, which is a BMX bike movie from the 80s, and I love it. I saw it several times at home, and then I actually was able to see it in a theater, Regal Cinema, again, coming in hot with these cool movies. I saw Rad in the theater, and it was awesome, except I didn't think the sound in the theater was as good during the musical numbers, or the one the one musical number, but the music in general didn't sound like it was mixed well. So even though it was some kind of remaster and rescan, that part of it was disappointing in the theater. But that movie is now in my top 4 on Letterboxd. I love it so much. I watched Class of 1999 with my wife. This is a favorite movie of mine that she had never seen, so we watched that together. It's a sci-fi action flick. Saw the end of Evangelion in the theater at Regal. Thanks again, Regal. It was cool. There were some other anime fans in there, and I remember chatting with them. That was cool. Speaking of anime, I took my wife to see Spy Family Code White, which came out last year, but it was in the theaters here this year. My wife had never seen the show, but I was a big fan of the show. I've seen every episode so far. So I just explained, before we saw the movie, I explained to my wife who the characters were and what their kind of situation was. And she had a good time. She enjoyed the movie. I thought it was great as well. I watched Supersonic, which was a really good documentary about one of my favorite bands, Oasis. And it's a pretty highly rated documentary. I don't know what else to say about it. It's a documentary about Oasis, and it's very good. I rewatched The Ring for the first time in a very long time. The Ring, the American version, was one of my favorite horror movies back in the day. I watched it on my CRT TV with a standard full screen DVD, and It was great. I don't mind full screen DVDs and VHS tapes and stuff like that. And The Ring, I enjoyed rewatching it that way. Another rewatch that I hadn't seen in a while was Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. This was actually my introduction to the show. I've explained this on the YouTube channel before. Some friends of mine just showed me this movie, which actually spoils the whole premise of the show. So I saw the movie first and then went and watched the show later on. This year I watched season 1, 2, and the return of Twin Peaks, and then I rewatched Fire Walk with Me. So that was cool. It's been a Twin Peaks kind of year, 2024. I watched this movie that I got at the dollar store called The House at the End of the Street, or House at the End of the Street. It's a Jennifer Lawrence thriller, and it's not some great movie, but I liked it a lot. It was just like, not even so bad it's good. It was just pretty good. Elizabeth Shue is also in it as Jennifer Lawrence's mother. I watched a movie with my wife called Band-Aid. I got this Blu-ray. It was a blind buy from Hamilton Book. They were selling it pretty cheap. And the premise of the movie intrigued me. It's this married couple having kind of trouble with their marriage, so they decide to start a band to kind of mend their ways and to bond together. And it's pretty cool. It wasn't quite what I was expecting, but I ended up enjoying it. Next, I watched Pink Floyd live at Pompeii a couple times. Pink Floyd is one of my favorite bands of all time, but I had never seen live at Pompeii. My friend Andre and I decided to cover this for a podcast episode that we recorded and then lost because the technology on my side wasn't working. So we will eventually re-record that and it'll come out. You'll see a two LPs in the pod episode about live albums, and we'll cover Pink Floyd live at Pompeii. But I watched it twice and I really enjoyed it, even though it's all pre Dark Side of the Moon material, which is when I like the band, their more popular stuff. And then my wife and I watched Constantine, which I can't remember if I've seen before with Keanu Reeves, but I really, really enjoyed this movie. A lot of people talk about how there's stuff going on in the movie that's not explained. I kind of like that about it. I like movies or books that take you to worlds where they don't explain everything to you. You don't know why certain things are going on and you never find out. And it's just part of the world building, so to speak. And now after this time, my wife and I moved and I didn't watch a lot of movies. So there's like a gap from around when I watched the Pink Floyd and Constantine were here. A few of the last movies I just said were here. But somewhere in that time, I wasn't watching a lot of movies because we moved. So in the beginning of the year, I was watching a lot of movies. Then we moved. I watched some of these movies here. And then I all of a sudden just got the bug in me. And I've been on this movie kick, watching movies every single day. Multiple movies a day when it's a weekend, or sometimes even during the week. I'll watch one in the morning and one at night. So I've been going nuts, and that's how I managed to watch 260 movies in a year. But there was a huge lull in the summer, but then it kicked back into high gear when spooky season started, which for us it started probably in September, I would say. I got on a found footage kick where I watched the Hell House LLC, all 4 movies. A coworker recommended these movies to me. I love this series. I love all 4 movies. The first one and the last one are really good, but people rag on the third one, and I really like the third one as well. And the second one's fine. I watched a movie called Exhibit A, which is a found footage movie that it's really dark. It will really get under your skin, but it was really well done. Just watching this, it's like a family drama where the family just kind of unravels due to the actions of the father and the inactions of the father. It's very, very troubling of a movie, but I'm glad I saw it. Speaking of troubling found footage movies, Lake Mungo is another cult classic that people always go to, so I wanted to see that. I really want to rewatch this because I've seen so many YouTube videos analyzing that movie that I really want to rewatch it. Butterfly Kisses is another one that's gaining popularity. If you watch a lot of YouTube videos from horror YouTubers about found footage movies, and it deserves its reputation. It's a very good movie. Another one I don't hear a lot about is Ratter, which Ratter wasn't some great movie, but the premise is very good. It's filmed entirely, it's this young woman who's filmed entirely through her devices, like her Kinect camera on her Xbox and her phone and her laptop. And that's the whole, all the footage in the movie is that. So that's creepy in and of itself, because the whole premise is that she's been hacked, and it just racks up the tension as it goes and gets worse and worse, and has a really crazy kind of ending. Next, I have been on a little bit of a streak with Samara Weaving movies, and it started with Ready or Not, which my wife and I watched a couple months ago, and I thought it was great. And I looked for more Samara Weaving movies, and it turns out she kind of, I think her shtick is doing these action horror comedies, these bloody, kind of funny, frantic movies. So I also watched Mayhem, Guns Akimbo, and The Babysitter 1 and 2. She's not in the second movie as much, but the second Babysitter, it's fine. It's just not as good as the first one. Next is a movie that's been on my radar for years and years and years, and I thought, man, I'll never watch that movie. It just looks like weird and it looks dumb. But Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai, as I couldn't believe how much I loved this movie, that as right after I watched it, I bought the Criterion Blu-ray. And I've been meaning to rewatch it, even though on my first watch, I kept I never do this when I'm watching a movie, no matter how cool it is, but I kept like rewinding parts and watching them again because I was just so blown away by how cool it was. I would love to see some more of Jim Jarmusch's movies, but for this one, for me, kicked it off really well. I watched The Fourth Kind on Halloween night, and it was really cool. I watch a lot of horror movies, but there's not a lot of things that really scare me, but alien abductions do. And this movie, The Fourth Kind, I think it has more of a cult following. It's not a very highly regarded movie, but it has Mila Jovovich in it, and I love her. And it has this like fake found footage element to it. Like it's a normal movie half the time, and then it's like fake found footage for the other. They'll say this is the actual footage from the incident. It's not, but it really immerses you in it. And I was watching this on Halloween night with all the lights on and giving candy to trick-or-treaters while I was watching this movie, and I was scared. I was still scared because pretty much only alien stuff scares me. Next, a movie called An Ideal Host, and I wish I could remember the YouTuber who recommended this one. It's an Australian movie from it's recent. It's like only a couple years old, and it's about this woman who throws a housewarming party with her fiance, and things kind of just get weird. And I don't want to spoil too much, and it does use a kind of tried and true mechanism that you've seen before as far as like a central theme of the movie. But I really like the way it was done. I like the characters. It's funny. It's pretty gory. Like I really liked this one. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Another alien movie that I liked, and this is another one I liked so much that as soon as I watched it, I bought the Blu-ray, was Phoenix Forgotten. As far as found footage movies go, this isn't, again, highly rated like universally by people. Most people just say, hey, it's a pretty cool movie. But this one like found its way into my heart because of the nostalgia of it. It's about the Phoenix Lights, which was a real life incident that happened in 1997, I believe. And part of the movie is quote unquote found footage from back then. And then the other half of the movie is the older sister of the person who took the found footage making a documentary trying to figure out what happened to her brother. And I found the characters in this, whether they were back in 97 or in the current day, to be very, very endearing and likable, which most movies don't have, right? Like, that's one thing I have, especially with horror movies. A lot of horror movies just have unlikable characters and you don't care what happens to them. So with this one, I was like really bought into what was happening to these kids, and I like that movie a lot, and I'm looking forward to a rewatch. I watched all 3 Terrifier movies this year. It was a franchise that I had avoided up until now, but I was really just going deep into horror movies, and I thought, how bad could this be? Like, I've seen crazy shit. Like, my whole life I've been watching horror movies since I was a kid. Like, how bad could this be? And when I was watching them, I just thought, yeah, it's gory, it's great, it's a special effects, it's a tech demo of next level special effects to me. And I really like the third one, is probably my favorite. The way it ended, even though there was a lot of talking and exposition with some people didn't like, I thought that ending was really cool of the third one. And though I don't love this whole trilogy, I will watch the fourth one. I'm still invested. I don't think I'm ever going to rewatch these movies, but I do get why people are really into them. I watched Creep 2. My wife and I watched the first Creep years ago around when it came out, and I actually think I like the second one better. I like the female counterpart. The dynamic of male and female in the second movie I thought was really well done. Next, this is one of my favorite movies that I watched this year. It was called Dash Cam. Don't watch it on my recommendation. Don't watch it. You're going to hate it. You're not going to like it. Dash Cam. Do not watch it. Next, another favorite of mine is As Above, So Below. This is another found footage. Again, I was on a found footage kick. And I did really like the characters, not as much as the characters in Phoenix Forgotten, but I did find these characters to be likable, if not a little reckless. But in the end, there is a little bit of character development that makes it satisfying in the end. I am not a huge fan of comic book movies, but I did watch Logan. And I didn't watch Logan so that I could watch Deadpool and Wolverine, but I ended up watching Deadpool and Wolverine, not realizing it was a direct sequel to Logan. So that was pretty cool. I just accidentally, because I don't follow these comic book movies, I ended up watching Logan and Deadpool and Wolverine like pretty close together, like just a week or two apart. Next, I watched Spree with Joe Keery, another kind of screen life, like streaming movie. You could call it found footage, but it's more specifically, I guess what they would call, I think it's called Screen Life, but it's not like Unfriended where you're looking at a desktop. You're actually watching a streamer. So sorry, I put my hand up and now my camera isn't focused. I watched The Outwaters, which is a kind of controversial pick. It's very weird. It's a strange movie. It's one of those movies that I liked my experience with it. I don't think I'll ever watch it again. It can be very tedious to watch, but there are some moments in it that really got under my skin in a good way. Next, I watched what I would probably call my favorite movie of 2024. I was going to do a list like at the end of this, like my top 5 movies of 2024, but as you'll see, I'll talk about, I didn't love a lot of the movies that came out this year. Even Terrifier 3, I think I only gave it like 2.5 stars or maybe 3 stars. I liked it. I didn't love it. The First Omen, I loved it. I thought it was a really great movie. The atmosphere was great. The the shocking things that take place in that movie are great. And I've never seen any of the other Omen movies, so I'm not like in particular a huge fan of it anyway, but great movie. Ghost Watch. This is that made for TV thing from England from 1992, I believe. I watched it with my wife. She didn't like it. I loved it. I thought it was so good. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was so good. I was enraptured by it. Like, I don't know. I like made for TV stuff. I like even though I'm very skeptical of people thought it was real, like, I don't know. I'm always skeptical of that, even though back in the day, I was one of those people who thought the Blair Witch could be real. So I don't know. I watched Bone Tomahawk, which is another movie that's been on my radar forever, and I hadn't seen it, but I just wanted to give it a shot because I had heard so much about it over the years, and it does live up to its reputation. It's a kind of gritty Western that is punctuated with extreme violence at the end, but it was a very good movie, and Matthew Fox's character was amazing, almost worth rewatching just for him. Next is another one of my favorites that I watched this year. It's called Poison for the Fairies. It's a Mexican film from 1986. It's about these two young girls who befriend each other, and one girl tells the other girl that she's a witch and kind of tricks her and gaslights her into thinking she's a witch. And it kind of goes from there. And it's from the point of view of these two kids. These adults' faces are never shown. It's very like fairy tale-ish. And it goes some really dark and sad, tragic places. Great movie. The Black Coat's Daughter. Another kind of moody, atmospheric, kind of demon possession movie with Kiernan Shipka, who's one of my favorite actresses, and I forget who else is all in it. Emma Roberts is in it, and it was a good one. Not super great, like not, oh my God, the greatest movie I ever saw, but I liked it a lot. Next, we have Villains with Micah Monroe, which is a movie that is almost how I described the Samara Weaving movies, just like an action horror comedy. This one's a little more twisted, but it has Micah Monroe and Bill Skarsgård in it, and it was surprisingly good. Where am I? All Cheerleaders Die. This is another one that sometimes makes the rounds on YouTube. I see people talking about it. Movies kind of going in and out of the zeitgeist on YouTube, right? So All Cheerleaders Die is one that I kept seeing, so I wanted to check it out. I really liked it. It's a little bit of an older movie, so there's a little bit of nostalgia in it for me. But it, again, like a lot of these movies that go to places that I wasn't expecting, that will earn points for me. Next, one of my other favorite movies I saw this year was Thoroughbreds with Anya Taylor-Joy. I love this movie. I really want to see it again because I think I would rate it higher. I gave it 3.5 stars. It might be like a 4.5, even a 5-star movie if I watch it again. Just let it sink in, just let it get under your skin. And I really, really would like to find a pair of these sunglasses. On Friday the 13th, I watched Friday the 13th, the final chapter, just because I felt like I should. I've seen all those movies, like every Friday the 13th movie from back in the day, and even more recently as I get back into horror. But this one, because of Crispin Glover doing his dance and many other elements of this movie, just make it pretty special. One of the biggest surprises for me this year was that I watched Smile 1 and 2, and Smile was a movie that I just avoided because I thought it looked stupid when it came out, and I don't think the trailers really did it justice. I really try to avoid trailers nowadays just because I feel like they show you the whole movie, and one of the movies I didn't even write on my list was Abigail. Infamously just tells you exactly like something that could have been a surprise in the movie, but the trailer kind of ruins it. That's why my wife and I haven't seen the Nosferatu, uh, the version of Nosferatu that came out. But there's so much freaking marketing material on the internet. Every time I see it, I scroll past. I don't want to see. I don't want to see the coolest part of the movie in a tiny window on Facebook. Like, get that out of here. I want to see the actual movie. But anyway, Smile was a movie like that for me. When I saw the trailer, I just thought, man, that looks dumb. But so, my friend Corey told me it was a good movie, and he was like, oh, I'm looking forward to the second one. It looks really good. So I was like, I'm going to check it out. So I really liked the first one. Ended up watching the second one. I really like the second one too. These are like pretty underrated movies, I think. Next, another favorite it's not from this year. It's from, I believe, 2020. But one of my favorites that I watched this year was Palm Springs with Kristen Milioti and Andy Samberg. It's a time loop movie, like a Groundhog Day type of movie, but it just has heart in a way that I wasn't expecting. I really like the kind of twists and turns, and it was just a great feel good kind of movie. Next, this might be my favorite movie that I watched this year that isn't Godzilla minus one. Strange Darling. I was blown away by this movie. I thought it was really cool. The less I say about it, the better. The Strange Darling is one that you just need to go in blind and check it out. Another movie like that I thought I wrote down, but I didn't, is One Cut of the Dead. If you've never seen One Cut of the Dead, just seek it out and watch it. Don't look up what it's about. Don't spoil yourself on it. Just go in blind. So those are two great movies that you should go in blind: Strange Darling and One Cut of the Dead. I watched Good Time with Robert Pattinson, and it was a good time. I really liked it. It was like kind of this. One of my friends had a review on Letterboxd, and it was just like a crime caper where everything just goes wrong, and it could bring a certain kind of person anxiety, and I've heard that people get anxious watching these movies, like the movies that these guys make, the Safdie brothers. And I haven't seen Uncut Gems yet, but I thought Good Time, it doesn't give me anxiety. I'm just watching it like, oh man, what is this idiot gonna do next? Like that's how kind of my brain works when I'm watching these kind of movies. Near Christmas, we watched Anna and the Apocalypse, which is the only Christmas movie we watched this year, but it was a good one. And again, I could talk about the premise of it, but it's probably better to just go in blind and not know what it is. I watched The Final Girls, which is a spoof of pretty much Friday the 13th, but with a kind of cross-dimensional time travel-y element to it. And man, this one really pulled on my heartstrings. I wasn't expecting, because the movie's kind of a comedy. It's kind of stupid, but it turned on the waterworks for me. I was really, it really hit me in the feels. I watched Another Earth, which is a sci-fi drama that a lot of people on YouTube are talking about. It's in the zeitgeist, even though it came out several years ago. I liked it very much. It was a movie that will really hit you in the feels. This next one is weird to recommend. It doesn't seem like a lot of people like this movie. It's called Miss Meadows with Katie Holmes. I loved this movie, and I can't wait to watch it again. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not sure why people don't really like it. I think it's a really cool movie. I don't know. I just liked it. I don't know why it's got a lot of haters, which I thought it was weird. I watched Unsane, which was that Steven Soderbergh movie that was shot with an iPhone 7, but it was pretty good. Again, another movie that could probably spike your anxiety if you let it, but very cool, like claustrophobic, kind of a hellish gaslighting experience for the main character. I watched The Truman Show for the first time. Never seen it before. Back in the day, I mean, it came out, I think, 98. And I remember it when it was a huge movie. I've never been a big Jim Carrey fan, even when he had more serious roles like this. So I'd never seen it. My wife felt like rewatching it. She has seen it, so she suggested it the other day, and it was pretty good. I mean, I could see why it was kind of a big deal at the time. It was pretty ahead of its time, and if you look at it now, it's kind of quaint in the premise of it. You know what I mean? Given like we're all online broadcasting ourselves, right? Just like I'm doing now. Next, I watched Climax, the Gaspar the Gaspar No movie about the dancers who are unknowing to them their drink. There's a big bowl of sangria. There's this dance troupe that's snowed in this building, and they all get spiked with LSD, not to their knowledge, and things just unravel from there. I would not think that I would like this movie very much because it's a bunch of unlikable people stuck in a building doing absolutely degenerate shit. But man, I thought it was good. I thought it succeeded in what it was trying to do. And it's just a kind of like Good Time, but in a totally different way. Just a movie where just stuff just unravels and goes south real quick. I watched Longlegs. I didn't think I was going to watch this movie, but then my wife last week, she said, "Oh, I watched that movie Longlegs." And I was like, "Oh, I thought we weren't going to watch, like neither one of us seemed interested." And she was like, "Oh, I just wanted to see it." And I was like, "Well, now I got to watch it." I got to say, I think I could see why a lot of people like it. I think it's quite overrated though. I think as I was watching it, I thought what people said about Nicolas Cage, I didn't agree with. I didn't think he disappeared into the role the way, say, Colin Farrell did for the Penguin. There are parts in Longlegs where Nicolas Cage is getting excited and slipping into the Nicolas Cage accent, and it's like, oh yeah, right, Nicolas Cage with 10 pounds of pancake makeup on his face. Like it did kind of take me out of it, but I love Micah Monroe. She was great in it, and the story could have been cool, but the kind of exposition dump at the end didn't leave anything really up to interpretation. So it was kind of like too nicely wrapped up, and I think it would have been better as like an episode of a TV show than as a movie. So I liked it. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't write it down. I saw The Substance. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was really good. I didn't want to get too negative on movies, but I saw Heretic. I didn't really like it. I gave it 2 stars. And this is why I didn't want to do a best of 2024 list, because a lot of the movies I didn't watch, a lot of the movies I watched in 2024 I didn't really love. A lot of the movies I watched in 2024 that were from 2024 I didn't really love. The last movie I watched in 2024 was a 1992, I believe, direct-to-video movie called Intent to Kill, starring Tracy Lords. And it was really bad, but I would put it in so bad it was good, because it was entertaining. It was stupid. The main villain is doing his best, like Al Pacino as Scarface impersonation. The story is ridiculous. Yeah, what more can you say? Intent to Kill. That's how I capped off 2024. And this morning I watched The Boogeyman, and that's how I kicked off 2025. The Boogeyman, it was okay. I really liked Sophie Thatcher in Heretic as much as I didn't like Heretic. I really liked Sophie Thatcher in that movie, and she kind of carried the Boogeyman, like her being in the Boogeyman, like kind of carried that movie for me. So anyway, follow me on Letterboxd. I got my link down in the description. I'm gonna keep watching movies every day until I don't feel like it, and I'll be on to some other hyperfixation. But right now I'm still just thoroughly enjoying being immersed in the world of cinema and watching movies every day, all day, day and night, morning and night, afternoon, yada yada. So thanks for stopping by. What were your favorite movies of 2024 that came out in 2024? You watched them in 2024. I don't care if they came out in 1994. I don't care. Leave them in the comments. Recommend some stuff to me because I'll watch anything. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.